Hi, this is Karen O'Brien, and I want to go through the process of setting up GDS and Mapper with you. A quick disclaimer. I removed the GDS and Mapper from the FLO-2D Pro installation for the year of 2023, build 23. I did that because GDS and Mapper is a Visual Basic tools and they're getting old, and I think Windows is kind of slowly phasing them out. To be quite honest with you, I'm surprised they've lasted this long. So as it becomes more difficult to install them and use them, it's just going to be more of a challenge for all of us, so I've just taken them out. That doesn't mean they're not still helpful and useful tools, and sometimes you need them. So this is going to show you how to get them and use them. So you'll download the GDS and Mapper setup, and then that goes straight to your download folder. You can see it right here. In my case, I had to unblock it because I use Windows Defender. Then you just run it, and it does require admin rights. Next, agree. Now, if you already have been using GDS and Mapper on the computer that you're currently using, you need to uncheck these three top options. You don't want to reinstall this stuff, but when FLO-2D put the software back on your computer, it took GDS and Mapper off your computer, but it didn't uninstall Visual Basic Map Objects or Data Access Objects because those things are really difficult to uninstall and they're shared, so we don't mess with those. So you already have those on your computer. Don't reinstall them because you could mess them up. You just want the FLO-2D Pro folder and the documentation folder. So click next, click install, and in my case that was really fast because I'd already done it, but in your case it might take a bit more time because it has to copy those files over. So what did you just do? You just put this guy and maybe a few other things in here, but these two and maybe a few other things like that go along with GDS and Mapper, a few other DLLs. And you also added, let's see, what else did you do? Oh, the documentation. And you got your two manuals, got your GDS and your Mapper manual here. Now, what didn't you get, right? You did not get the tutorials. So you didn't get lesson 1 through 16, and you didn't get the workshop lesson booklet. That's back in here. I'm not going to give you that. I don't want you training people to use GDS and Mapper. So if you want that you're on your own. Okay, now let's go ahead and run the test. So when you run GDS Mapper Installer, you do get an icon on your desktop. Just open GDS and load a project. This case we're going to be loading barn. Open existing, and I've done this a couple times, so it's going to FLO-2D Pro documentation, example projects, examples barn. You always want to use fplane.dat. Don't use topo.dat to load a GDS project because it takes a lot longer to load it. Always use fplane.dat. And if you don't see an fplane.dat, that's because you made your project with QGIS, and maybe you shouldn't be loading it in GDS anyway. You should just use QGIS. I'm going to click OK. Don't worry about these error messages. Like I said, it's an old project. GDS doesn't like that street data, but FLO-2D doesn't seem to mind it. Alright, so we have one final part of the test is to select some elements defined by a polygon. So if I click this button, it's going to say it's going to create a grid layer. So I'm going to click yes, and that's the first test has passed. That means it can access a layer that creates, it can access a DLL that can create grid layer. And then I will just click a couple of vertex points and then double click to close the vertex or to close the polygon, and some cells were selected, and that is the second test passed. That means that another DLL can be accessed and is functional. Now we'll test Mapper, but before we test Mapper we have to run the model. So if you click File, Run FLO-2D, it will bring you up the options to run the model. We don't want to save this project. We just want to run, do not save. And you see here that this is a Pro model. We get the blue screen and it says Pro. That means this is the professional version. If it said Basic, that means you need to run your activator. Alright, over here we're going to see this add some water to the system, and all we need are some colors. We don't have to run the whole thing. Just run it until you see some colors, then you can close it. And now we can load it in Mapper because it has some results. So if I click File, Run Mapper, Mapper Pro, I can just click that to close that more quickly. File, Read FLO-2D Results, and it did take me where I wanted to go, so that's cool. But if it didn't, again, just go find Barn and open fplane.dat. It starts with your grid element elevation, which is here, and then of course we want max elevation. Well, that was max water surface elevation, max flow depth, and velocity vectors, and we just click OK. And I was just testing to see that those maps would load, and that means that Mapper also working correctly. So close Mapper, close GDS, don't save the project, and don't load back-to-back projects with GDS. You always need to close between projects. So if you were to load my project and then go load your own project, that would mess your project up. So be real careful about that. Okay, that's it. Thank you.